Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to mumble! Introducing first, in the black corner, in his trademark office suit jacket tie, with a record of over 8,000 tax returns and 1,000 vast statements lodged, standing 5'11" and weighing in at... He is the man with the tax plan, the sultan of spreadsheets, the baron of vast statements, the king of ka-ching. Hailing from Ballarat, Victoria, Peter Angel! And in the white corner, sporting his struggling artist casuals, with a record of 1.5 feature-length films, 1 web series and numerous award-winning shorts, standing 5'10" and weighing in at... The Kubrick of Claptrap, the Mac Daddy of the MacGuffin, the Caesar of subtext, the champion of all things indie, the arrogant know-it-all Israeli bastard, now hailing from Melbourne, Victoria, the unpronounceable... How do you say this? Itai Guberman! Sit back and enjoy as they trade opinion jabs, fighting for their favourites and battling politely through the best and worst of... well, anything they see fit, really. The accountant versus the filmmaker. The financial consultant versus the artist. What can possibly go wrong? Tune in and find out on the Best and Worst podcast, where it ain't all black and white.
Hello and welcome to the Best and Worst podcast. My name's Peter Angel and I'm talking today with Itai. How are you doing, Itai?
Hey Peter, how's it going?
Very well. Now today we're talking about Mel Brooks films.
We certainly are.
So quite a treat. There's been 11 films that he actually directed. He appeared in other ones, but we're just concentrating on those 11 films for today.
Yep, so to my dismay, we're not going to talk about To Be or Not to Be from 1983, which he starred in but did not direct. Very much a Mel Brooks film, a very Mel Brooks type of film. But yeah, he didn't direct it, so we're going to leave that one out.
That's correct. Well, as always, I am a numbers guy, so let's start with the ratings on IMDb. So the number 11 film on IMDb was Dracula Dead and Loving It. The rating for that was 5.9. Life Stinks was number 10, and the rating on that was 6. Then came The 12 Chairs, rating of 6.5. At number 8 was Robin Hood Men in Tights, also High Anxiety and Silent Movie. They all had a 6.7 IMDb rating.
Oh, so all like tied for 6th spot, I guess. 3-way tie.
Exactly right. It doesn't go into the decimals after the 0.7, so they're pretty close, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Then at number 5, we've got History of the World Part 1. I was a bit disappointed there was never a part 2. I quite like that one. Then at number 4, we've got Spaceballs with a 7.1 on IMDb. We've got The Producers at number 3, IMDb rating of 7.6. Then we've got Blazing Saddles at number 2. That had a rating of 7.7. And the number 1 Mel Brooks film on IMDb was Young Frankenstein. Rating of 8.
Interesting.
Yes, so I guess there's a few surprises there.
I have to say I kind of wasn't sure how they're going to rate because, again, IMDb is kind of more sort of younger people, maybe people who are not necessarily that aware of Mel Brooks. Yeah, no, I'm kind of happy to see Young Frankenstein at number 1. That's pretty cool. But yeah, the ranking for the most part is very different to mine.
Yes, yeah. And there's a few similarities for me, but a lot different as well.
But being the numbers guy, I assume you also looked into their box office numbers a bit?
I did, yes. So the number 1 film box office-wise was Blazing Saddles, at the highest return on investment. The budget for that was about $2.6 million.
Wow.
So it had a 4,600% return.
I would have thought the budget, even then, this is 1974. I thought even then it would have been a bit more than that, but yeah, not bad.
Compared to the cast that he had, which we'll get into a bit later, 2.6 million is a pretty cheap film.
What was the budget on Young Frankenstein?
About the same, 2.8 million.
Yeah, strange because it's a much more contained kind of film for the most part.
True. I guess all those villages didn't come cheap.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so Young Frankenstein, that had the second highest return on investment. Its budget, 2.8 million, and its box office was 86 million.
Wow. pretty cool.
Yeah, so over 3,000% return on investment.
What was third on the list?
Third was Silent Movie.
Wow, that's a surprise.
Yep, 4.4 million budget and returned 36 million at the box office.
4.4 million budget. Okay, I assume that was mostly because of the success of the other two, which were both came out in 1974, and then this one was a couple of years later. So I'm guessing banking on the success of those, he got a bigger budget, almost. Not double, but close.
Well, true. And he probably saved a little bit on the sound.
Yeah, I was going to say it probably did not require such a big budget, but getting a lot of big names to do cameos must have come into it. This one has Burt Reynolds, James Caan, Paul Newman, Liza Minnelli, and Bancroft. Yeah, Dom DeLuise and Marty Feld, kind of staples in Mel Brooks's work. They've been in quite a few.
That's right. And also, part of that budget may have been because Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein were such successes. Mel might have paid himself.
Well, that's usually how it is. You get more of everything if you can, whether it's in the technical departments or bigger stars or whatever you need. I assume that's what happened here. So yeah, not bad. What was fourth on the list?
Fourth was High Anxiety.
Wow.
A little over 4 million budget and 31 million at the box office.
That was the next year, yeah? It was 1977.
That's right, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yep, and then after that we've got History of the World Part 1, $11 million budget, almost 32 million at the box office.
11 million budget in 1981, I believe. Yeah, still not massive budgets.
No.
For a film with so many people involved, lots of extras, lots of locations. Mel knew how to do these things, I guess.
That's right. Then we had Robin Hood Men in Tights. It had a return on investment of 179%, budget 20 million.
What number is that on the list?
That was sixth.
Because that was in 93, so more recent. What was the budget again, sorry?
$20 million.
Okay.
And just under 36 million at the box office.
Mm-hmm. But by today's standards, that's a film that didn't break even. But back in the early 90s, it may have. Plus, DVD sales, VHS actually was even still around. So that would have done okay.
That's right. And then we had Spaceballs.
Wow.
$22.7 million budget and 38 million at the box office. And a lot of that budget apparently was on special effects.
Yeah, I expected this one to be higher on this list, I must say. 1987, because I just remember it being a massive success, but it may have been that on rental, VHS, maybe DVD. This is
1987. So it would have been VHS for me, but probably maybe Laserdisc for other people.
Yeah, that's, okay. And what was the next one?
Yeah, number 8 was The 12 Chairs. Now, the budget on that was only 1.75 million. Mm-hmm. It was back in 1970, but the box office wasn't terribly high, 1.8 million. So just broke even.
Which is slightly odd because Mel Brooks was already kind of a name, having already done The Producers. So
Yes, it was his second film. But then, getting to The Producers, that is number 9. The budget on that was just under $1 million, and the box office was only 375,000.
Yeah, it did better later. It kind of became a bit of a cult classic. It had a few, I think, VHS and then DVD releases. I assume it came out on Blu-ray, I'm not sure. And it had a bit of a resurgence, I guess, when it was remade and also the stage musical.
That's right, and Curb Your Enthusiasm as well.
Yeah, so I assume that Life Stinks was the last on the list, yeah?
It was, yeah. So you had Dracula, Dead and Loving It was 10th. $30 million budget for that, and under 11 million at the box office. Mm-hmm. And then Life Stinks, $13 million budget and only a little over $4 million at the box office.
Yeah, that one kind of put that last nail in the coffin for Mel Brooks as director.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of his work after that, got the budget that it needed. That was in 91. He did direct Men in Tights after that, so had a bit of a resurgence and back to his sort of parodying ways.
Yep, and then Dracula Dead and Loving It killed his career.
Yeah.
Directorial-wise.
I think the shtick, was over. I don't think he could still keep making those films for the young audience of the time because slapstick was really out. Which is funny because that's a thing that they're saying in Silent Movie, and that's in 1976. He pitches the film to the studios, and they tell him that slapstick is dead. This is in 1976, and he kept it up till 95. So apparently it wasn't.
Well, he did, but then people like the Farrelly brothers took over from him.
Yeah, although they don't really parody. They just do crazy stuff. But yeah, his films were direct parodies. But I think it was felt that he was kind of repeating the same jokes a lot.
I think so too. But then Leslie Nielsen, he went off and did Naked Gun, was it, the series? And there was still a bit of life left in it for him.
Yeah, because that was a different story. Naked Gun is not exactly a parody. It's a parody of TV cop shows. So it's not really parodying in the same way. And it was, hilariously funny. And it slightly reinvented itself with every sequel, at least a little bit to keep it interesting. But yeah, even that one, after when the third one came out, it was also already a little bit of the same.
Yeah.
Even though it was very funny, I'm a big fan. But I think, probably with Mel Brooks, it was maybe less slapstick, more parody, which is what I really like. Although his films kind of vary. I think he has those parodies, and he also has films that are slightly more high concept, where the comedy is not as sort of fast and free. It's a bit slower.
Yeah, and I think he's at his best when less slapstick, less breaking the fourth wall, and just some of the great writing.
Yeah. I don't mind breaking the fourth wall if it doesn't slow the film down. And with him, it's almost like the movie stops, so we can see it, and then it keeps going again, whereas I wouldn't mind it being a little bit faster. I don't need things pointed out to me. I can understand the joke.
That's right. I watched Spaceballs just in the last day or two, and right at the start, you've got the Darth Vader character just looking at the camera and saying, "Did you get that?"
Yeah.
Because they basically just described the plot within about 10 seconds, and it worked.
Yeah, no, for the time, I remember seeing Spaceballs, around the time it came out. I thought it was hilarious. With time, it got a bit old. It aged more so than his other films, I feel. I'm not sure that that's true for everything, but I watched Spaceballs recently, like in the last few years, and I remember laughing a lot less than I used to. Whereas, when I watch Blazing Saddles or History of the World or Young Frankenstein, they still crack me up all the way through.
All right, well, that's the numbers out of the way. That's what reality and what other people think. But more importantly, what did you think?
Now let's talk to the experts. That's us, yeah?
What was your number 11 film?
My number 11 was, well, in similar fashion to some other directors, I don't feel that Mel Brooks has made a terrible film on this list. I think they were all at least above average, maybe. And so my 11th, which is last on the list, I still enjoyed, and that's Life Stinks. It definitely had some charm, and I did enjoy it, but it still ranked last on the list for me.
Yeah, it was my number 10. There was one that I disliked more, but Life Stinks for me was number 10. It's not that it was a bad film, but I think it's perhaps what Mel Brooks fans didn't expect. It was a little bit more serious. There was a little bit less slapstick. Yeah, it wasn't a great film, but it wasn't as bad as everyone thinks. Maybe he made it a little bit too easy, calling it Life Stinks, so that all the critics could say, well, this movie stinks.
It's I found that it was also very much a mix of drama and comedy in parts. In parts, it was very dramatic and not at all funny. Almost like a tearjerker. And I think that sort of unevenness hurt it as well, because it's like, what is it? Is it supposed to be a comedy, or is it supposed to be a drama? Am I supposed to feel for these characters, or is this supposed to be crazy and fun? So yeah, especially when one of the characters dies, just kind of sad, and then it went back into comedy, and at the end it kind of went crazy again, like wacky. So yeah, it was a bit uneven, but I did like it. And starring opposite him was, I think, Leslie Ann Warren.
Yeah,
and she's always fun to watch. So I like that setup. It didn't really have a lot of familiar actors apart from maybe Jeffrey Tambor in the villainous kind of character.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it was a fun film, but yeah, it's last on my list. My 10th was The 12 Chairs.
Yeah, and that was my 11.
I assume
it was based on a novel by a Russian author, and it's been done lots of times, and just didn't feel like a Mel Brooks film. It wasn't terribly funny. Yeah, just wasn't for me.
Yeah, it almost felt like a very early Mel Brooks film, like before he kind of found his feet comedy-wise. Again, it was fun and it was okay, but the jokes were too far apart. So it was okay. I did enjoy it again.
Too much tragedy, not enough comedy,
which is very typical of those types of Russian stories.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's again the story within itself. You're right. We've heard it a million times before. It's not wasn't that original. But I felt actually with Life Stinks, which I forgot to mention, it had some similarities to Trading Places, which I think Trading Places was done before that, and I think that's what sort of dropped it down my list a little bit, because there were some similarities in the story there.
Yeah, and also he was a very unsympathetic character. I don't know, you weren't rooting for him to succeed or anything like that?
Oh, I think you kind of were. He starts off being this evil kind of rich guy.
Trump-esque, sort of.
Yeah, but very quickly, once they have their bet, and he starts living the poor life, it doesn't take long for him to become a character that you kind of root for. And again, it's also because of Jeffrey Tambor's character, which was sort of evil but kind of hiding it in the beginning, and then you kind of you get the story. You understand sort of who's the villain, who's the hero, and it very quickly you become sympathetic. But that similarity to Trading Places felt a little bit maybe rip-off-ish to me, and I dropped it down the list because of that. So 12 Chairs, even though it had a story that's been sort of retold over time, it wasn't hiding it anywhere, and it sort of gave it the edge over that one for me, just a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough.
My number 9 is almost to my dismay, because I do like the movie. It was Silent Movie from 1976.
Yeah, and I'm pretty close. That was my number 8.
I do like it, and every time I watch it, I've seen it probably maybe 3 or 4 times, no more than that, which is not a lot for Mel Brooks films for me. It's slower than other films. The laughs are, again, far apart, but the cameos in it are just awesome. Which the ones that I've mentioned before, Burt Reynolds, Paul Newman, James Caan, Liza Minnelli, and Bancroft, all as themselves, and they are basically the actors that Mel Brooks goes after to be in his film to save the studio, and he pitches a silent movie, which is something that wasn't done at that time. So it's kind of a high concept film. It's like a silent movie within a silent movie within a half silent movie. So yeah.
Yep. Also had Sid Caesar, who I think Mel Brooks started out writing for.
Mm-hmm.
And at one stage, Sid Caesar was so drunk and he was smoking a cigar. Mel Brooks said that he wanted a bit of fresh air. So Sid Caesar went and opened the window of this 10th story apartment, grabbed Mel Brooks and dangled him over the edge and said, "Is that enough fresh air for you?"
Ooh, really?
Yep.
That's strange, because they worked on a few films together.
They did, but apparently he was the strongest comic Mel Brooks had ever known, and he wasn't a good drunk.
Because he was also in History of the World, that I remember. He may have been in a few of the other ones as well, but wow. Yeah, he was the head of the studio in this one.
That's right. Yeah, so for me, this film, it felt a bit self-indulgent, which I guess is why I've moved it down the list a little bit. Still a good film, but I loved the fact that the only person that spoke in it was Marcel Marceau. Very, very clever. It just felt like it was almost a buddy film where you had Mel Brooks and all his mates just shooting a film. And
oh, that's right. I forgot Marcel Marceau. He was also a cameo. Yeah, but yeah, no, it's again a good film. I also love seeing Marty Feldman. Whether in Mel Brooks films or not, he was always hilarious to me. Yeah, I'm fond of it, but still, it's my number 9. Your number 8. My number 8 is Dracula Dead and Loving It, which to me is it's in the style that I favor as far as Mel Brooks films go, where it's a parody and the laughs are a bit more sort of fast coming. They're like one after the other, joke, sort of to keep you in it. It didn't have as many sort of quotable kind of jokes. I was disappointed in it, I think, because I expected it to be a lot funnier, especially because it had Leslie Nielsen in it. And I'm again, a big fan. So it dropped down. Yeah.
I agree. It could have been a lot better. It's not that it was a terrible film or anything. It just could have easily been a lot better.
Yeah, and again, Mel Brooks also appears in it. It also has actually quite a few familiar faces. Is it Steven Weber?
It is, yeah, along with Peter McNichol.
Yeah, he's hilarious. He's Renfield, yeah?
Yeah. You've got Harvey Korman, who had been in so many of Mel Brooks' films.
Yes. Also a favorite.
I think Amy Yasbeck was the love interest in it.
That's right. And she's also in Robin Hood Men in Tights, I believe.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, no, it had everything kind of going for it, and it was always surprising to me that it wasn't as good as it could have been. So yeah, I think it's a slight disappointment. That's always a factor in this one. So yeah, it drops down. It's not bad. It has its moments. It's funny in parts, but you could tell that this was the end of those types of films, not just for Mel Brooks, even in general. Those sort of parodies, but there was the old shtick of, of the way they parody. There were still some parodies later by other filmmakers, just they were a lot more wacky and a lot more edgy. And I think at some point Mel Brooks was not so edgy anymore. And I think that was a factor in this one.
That's right. And yet it was his last film. And the fact that the budget was 30 million and it only brought back under 11 million, I think that helped it to be his last film too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think he also got tired at that stage. Now, look, 11 features as director is not a bad career, I have to say.
True.
So, have we done your number 8? We have. So far, I'm thinking we flip-flopped 10 and 11 and 9 and 8. Is that right?
We have, yes. So my number 7 is Spaceballs.
My number 7 is High Anxiety.
Well,
my number 6 is Spaceballs.
My number 6 is High Anxiety.
Well,
we're very, very close here, aren't we?
We're flip-flopping all over the place.
True. We sound like a politician here.
Yeah. Well, again, I do like both movies a lot. Spaceballs I loved when I was younger, and it just really, it's the Mel Brooks film that's aged the most for me, which is why it dropped down the list. It used to be probably in my top 5, maybe top 3 even, and just recently I had to kind of edge it out because I just don't feel it's sort of standing the test of time. It has a lot of funny jokes in it.
Yeah, I like the bit with the arseholes, where he goes and says, "Who is this arsehole?" And it's like, "That's my cousin," and he's Colonel Arsehole or something. And then the guy says, "Are there any other arseholes?" And everybody puts their hand up, and he says, "I knew it. I'm surrounded by arseholes." Yeah,
no, it has a lot of funny jokes. Like that one in particular was not actually a parody joke. That's a joke that's just been written into it. But a lot of the jokes in it were either sort of visual or again written but based on the Star Wars trilogy at the time, I have to say.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it came out about 10 years after Star Wars, and Mel Brooks actually got permission from George Lucas, or his blessing, I guess, not permission, to make it. And the special effects, I think about $5 million of the budget was spent on special effects, and that went to George Lucas's Light and Sound studio. Now, the only condition George Lucas put on him sort of giving his blessing to make this parody was that he couldn't do any merchandising at all, which is why there was so much merchandise in the film.
Yeah. Again, a lot of jokes in it were very funny. I remember the combing the desert, and even just the names, the Princess Vespa, they kind of played around with some of the characters, which was very funny.
Yeah, and the sidekick being half dog, half man, called Barf.
Yeah, which was the Wookiee. Chewbacca,
legendary John Candy.
That's right. Yeah. Again, a lot of it is funny. To me now, it's almost like it's funnier in sort of the nostalgia factor. But when I actually watch it, it's not as funny.
Yeah, I agree. I watched an episode of The Goldbergs recently, and on that they had Spaceballs, and he went off to see it and all the rest of it, and it made me more fond for the movie Spaceballs than when I actually watched it.
And it has again, massive cast. Like you said, John Candy. It also has Rick Moranis as Dark Helmet, which was hilarious. Again, just as a joke within itself. It's Darth Vader became Dark Helmet, and he's a little guy. And Bill Pullman, instead of Han Solo, he was Lone Star. Daphne Zuniga was Princess Vespa. Mel Brooks was the president, but Mel Brooks was President Scroob, I believe. But he was also Yogurt. Yeah, Yoda becoming Yogurt was hilarious.
One of the better names, yeah.
Yeah, Dick Van Patten, George Weiner, who's also in a few of the other films, Michael Winslow from Police Academy, the voice guy.
Yeah, my mate John Hurt playing himself.
Yeah, and Joan Rivers was the voice of Dot Matrix.
Yes, apparently the actress that was inside the costume was going to be doing the voice, and she just couldn't hit the mark, so they brought Joan Rivers in.
Yeah, so yeah, it had a lot going for it, and again, I'm not sure exactly why it's aged more than others, but it has.
Well, it is based on Star Wars, which it's not as great a film as everybody thinks it is.
Nah, but I don't know. My favorite joke from this film was probably, "Why didn't anyone tell me my ass was so big?" when he gets teleported from one room to the next, where you think he's coming from wherever it is, but now he just, instead of walking over, but when they teleported him, his ass was in the front rather than the back. So
Very Larry Sanders, isn't it?
yeah, but as always, some things are very, very funny. Dark Helmet and Yogurt, just the names cracked me up every time it came up.
Pizza Hut or Pizza the Hut.
Pizza the Hut, that's right, that was also a good one.
Apparently that was real pizza, and they were keeping it hot, and they had somebody from special effects inside of it, and he couldn't stand being in there because it was so hot. So they cut, and he wouldn't go back into the costume, so they had to get someone else from special effects to get in there.
I don't think I'll ever think of it as maybe a bad film, but any film that has a joke with comb the desert, and you have a big comb and people actually combing it. Yeah.
3 or 4 big combs. Are you sure that we're not taking this literally? Maybe we should look at it another way. No. Let's go ahead.
Comb it, please. Yeah, so no, very, very funny film. But yeah, the one that I actually rated just below it at number 7, High Anxiety, that was a parody and also an homage, as it states in the beginning of the film, to Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes, lots of Hitchcock movies.
Yeah.
Apparently Hitchcock was shown the rough cut of the movie, and after the movie he just got up, didn't say anything at all, and walked out, and Mel Brooks thought, oh, he hates it. And then the next day there was a parcel of, I think, 6 bottles of wine just saying, great film.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Alfred Hitchcock smile.
No.
Yeah,
no, I don't think he'd want to. I don't think he would look right smiling. He looked like a serial killer.
More so than he already did,
Yeah.
I think as a sort of the skeleton for the film, I think it's a bit of a parody of Vertigo, but it added bits and pieces of all the other most of the other films in there.
Yeah. Psycho, where somebody comes in with the newspaper and you've got the ink going down the sinkhole.
Actually, it was interesting. The one who that was an interesting character. It was like a bellboy with an attitude. It was always like always looked put off by being asked to do anything, which I thought was a very sort of funny kind of touch, because again, that wasn't anything to do with the parody. But the one who played him, just trying to remember, but he was Barry Levinson.
Well, he went on to bigger and better things, didn't he?
So that was always an amusing little tidbit. But yeah, I watched it.
Cloris Leachman, though, how good was she?
She's always good, and the character it had a little bit of similarities to her Blucher character from Young Frankenstein. But yeah, and again, Harvey Korman.
Yes, Madeline Kahn.
Yeah,
Ron Casey. There's a lot of the old favourites.
Yeah, well, Madeline Kahn, massive favorite of mine. But yeah, I think Dick Van Patten was in there.
Yeah,
he's one of the doctors, the one that gets killed by listening to some shitty track on the radio, and I can't remember what it was. But yeah,
and then the bit from The Birds where they're all just crapping on him.
Yeah. Very funny. Yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed it. Now that I think about it, having the gang together in this one with Madeline Kahn, Cloris Leachman, Harvey Korman, that kind of helped it a lot. But yeah, no, very, very good. And who was the one who played Brophy? I think it was Ron Carey, who is also in a few of his films. He played like his sort of assigned assistant or whatever in this one. Yeah, very good film. I have to say, I did enjoy it more than I remembered. So it was actually better with a more sort of recent viewing.
Yeah.
But yeah, still, it ended up my number 7, and my number 6 was Spaceballs. Yours were flipped.
Yes, and my number 5 was Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Okay. Not my number 5, but it's my number 4.
Okay, so again, same ballpark. A lot of quotable quotes in that.
Oh, I had a tough time keeping it out of the top 3, but the top 3 were definitely better. But it's just Robin Hood Men in Tights is very, very, very funny.
Yeah, I never forget Blinken.
Blinken.
Hey, Blinken. What are you doing? I'm feeling. I can see again. No, I can't.
They put him on watch. The blind guy. He has to be on in the watchtower. And what are you doing? I'm guessing. I guess there's nobody coming.
That's it. And then you've got Dave Chappelle as, what was he? Achoo? Son of a sneeze?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, Isaac Hayes as a sneeze.
Yeah, that was very funny. I believe Dom DeLuise was in there as Don Giovanni.
Yep.
And Patrick Stewart as King Richard, and Tracy Ullman playing Latrine.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because that was a character in Top Secret, kind of the name. So I don't know who ripped who off, but yeah.
Yep. And as you said, Amy Yasmith, she was in as Marion.
Yeah, Amy Asbeck, she was great.
Richard Lewis.
Roger Rees played the sheriff of Rottingham, and Richard Lewis is Prince John. I didn't know Richard Lewis very well around that time, so I actually thought he was very good.
And then you found out that's just how he is in everything he does.
Yeah, but he was a bit of a staple.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
That's right. Yeah, as himself. So yeah, no, a lot of big names in this one. Again, yeah, very funny. Yeah, again, I had a tough time keeping it out of my top 3, but the top 3 were just even tougher. But I'll talk about that when I get to them. Before that, I think my number 5. That's right, my number 5 is The Producers.
No, that can't be right. Yeah. I think you got that wrong.
I think I got it right. I like The Producers a lot, but The Producers is still sort of in the style that I prefer less of Mel Brooks. I do love the parodying style. So I think, I had it sort of 4-5 with Robin Hood Men in Tights. It was never going to make it into my top 3 because my top 3 in that regard are a lock. I don't know about the order, but as being the top 3 films,
yeah,
I think they are sort of above and beyond better than the others. But yeah, The Producers, I am a fan and I do like it, but I always felt that it was a little bit overrated because everybody likes it so much, and I actually thought, like I said, on IMDb, I almost expected it to be number 1.
Yeah, well, not far off, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great film. There's a lot of great ideas in it. It's sort of where I think it all started as far as the first film for Mel Brooks, but also the first film where he brings in all the sort of Holocaust references.
Yeah.
I think his big quote was that, comedy, what is it, tragedy plus time equals comedy, something along those lines. And yeah, he, being Jewish and having joke-telling immunity, he was one of the very few to start, joking about the Holocaust.
And there's just so many good lines about, the Holocaust and, well, more about the Nazis. One of the lines is, "Don't be stupid, be a smarty, come and join the Nazi party."
Well, Springtime for Hitler within itself is funny.
Oh, yeah, hilarious. Yeah. Was it Springtime for Hitler in Germany, winter for Poland and France?
Yeah. But also, like, Zero Mostel was in the lead in this one, and I do like him in some things, but I'm not a massive fan. He is just so very, very slapsticky, and I'm not a fan of slapstick as such. But but having Gene Wilder is a massive plus because I'm a massive fan of his. So
yeah, and he was very just so good in it.
Yeah, he's excellent.
Like his favourite line of mine was, "Just think, yesterday I was a meaningless little accountant. Today I'm the producer of a Broadway flop." As an accountant, you've got to love him.
Yeah, that is a step up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, aside for them, I think Kenneth Mars was also in this.
Yeah, he was. He was the playwright.
Franz Lipkind or something.
Yeah,
he was. Yeah, I mean, from Young Frankenstein, he's kind of like one of my favorites. So yeah, I loved seeing him in this.
And then later he's on Malcolm in the Middle. He owned a dude ranch.
Oh yeah, Malcolm in the Middle, bringing in the references.
Another one of the great quotes from him in the film, he's comparing Churchill to Hitler, and he's saying that Churchill, he can't even paint. Hitler, he's a great painter. He could do a room, 2 coats in one day.
I think that Mel Brooks tried to bring the Holocaust into a lot of films. It seemed to be a bit of a favorite topic for him, although he didn't bring it into a lot of films, I assume, because, again, you can't keep doing that. And while The Producers was a bit of a fan favorite, I know that a lot of people also criticized it for the Holocaust humor, because some people just can't take a joke.
Well, if you're not joking about it, then you forget about it, don't you?
Again, being a Jew, I don't think I have that option of forgetting about it, but yeah, other people maybe.
Yeah.
Still, it's my favorite non-wacky parody film of his, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the top 4, again, from Robin Hood onwards, they're all those really kind of wacky, in that wacky style that I liked from him.
Well, my number 4 was History of the World Part 1.
Yep, I can see that.
I remember that very, very fondly when it came out. It was almost just jumping from era to era.
Yeah, it had that going for it. Gregory Hines, yeah. Massive favorite as far as lines. There were just a ton of lines in this. Very fast paced, very funny. It went sort of from Bible times to Rome to back and forth. And a couple of my favorite jokes are actually sort of biblical, funnily enough, to do with Moses. He comes down the mountain and he's got the tablets on him, and the line is, I give you the 15. And then one of the tablets drops and breaks. And he goes, Oi, the 10 commandments. So yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
I know, because it makes you think, well, what was on those other 5?
And the other one was the parting of the Red Sea, and he stands there with his arms up, and they all get through, and then the camera sort of goes back to him. He's still standing there with his arms up, and it's revealed that someone's robbing him from behind.
And the other one was that the peasants are revolting, and then it's like pull, and one of the peasants gets flung up in the air, and then the king shoots him and says, they're not so bad.
Yeah, and also, it had Cloris Leachman there. I remember her puncturing one of her boobs with her knitting needle. Madeline Kahn, to me, was maybe a favorite character in this.
Yep.
The whole yes, no, yes. That whole thing when she picks a slave or someone for an orgy or whatever that was, I can't remember. But yeah. And just also the exchange between her and Gregory Hines, when he pours the drink into her cup. It's like, say when, 8:30? And then there's always like a confused look and some pauses between them, which was funny. And then, the line with, was it Dom DeLuise who was always trying to get into her pants, or was it Mel Brooks?
Dom DeLuise was the emperor, so it was probably Mel Brooks.
Yeah, because there was one where she's kind of holding him back, and he wants to sleep with her, and she says, but the servant waits while the master baits. And then they both kind of pause, look at the camera, and then quickly look back. So yeah, that was probably my favorite line from the film.
Yeah, and even having Orson Welles as the narrator, just lending his voice to it, it was really good.
But yeah, it's my third on the list, and it was one, like my top 3. I actually had a tough time deciding which one will be number 1, because they were all so close as far as I was concerned. The one that you had it at 4, yes?
Yeah. So what was your number 2 then?
Hang on, I think we missed one for mine. No, we didn't. I mentioned it before. Yeah, Robin Hood Men in Tights was my 4th. My 3rd was History of the World Part 1, and my 2nd. That was a really, really tough one. I wouldn't say I was flip-flopping them, but I was struggling to write it down. But number 2 is Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, my number 3.
Nice. Ooh, okay. Yeah, Blazing Saddles, huge favorite. I don't know how many times I've seen it, but I would say it's in the double figures. It's, just hilarious.
It is, yeah. There's I was disappointed with the ending. It's when basically it goes from being a Western to showing that it's just being filmed on a soundstage. I thought there was a little bit of a cop-out at the time that they didn't really know how to end it.
I didn't mind it, the ending, I have to say. I thought it was funny, and it was different, because not many films kind of ended that way around then, or had that sort of factor kind of in them. And it is to do with breaking the fourth wall, to an extent. As you said, it's something that he loved to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one had Cleavon Little in pretty much the main role, and I think he's potentially only Mel Brooks film, which was a surprise because he was just so good in it.
Originally, it was going to be Richard Pryor who helped write the film, but the studio wouldn't have him as the lead because he had drug issues. And so then Mel Brooks was going to walk away from it, but Richard Pryor said, no, stay on, get the film made. And then Gene Wilder, he wasn't going to be the other lead. It was going to be an actor that was known for Westerns that was a recovering alcoholic. But anyway, yeah, so the first day of filming, he's hanging upside down and Bart walks in and says, how are we? And then the Gene Wilder character, he goes and says, are we black? The original actor, when that was being filmed, he just threw up all over the place. It was this yellow bile. And Mel Brooks apparently said, are we shooting The Exorcist? The actor had to be taken away in a ambulance. And even though the story was about a recovering alcoholic, this guy wasn't recovered enough. So Mel Brooks called up Gene Wilder, who was a good friend, and was crying on the phone and said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've lost the lead actor. Gene Wilder said, look, I'll do it. And he got on a plane and he was there the next day filming. Yeah,
because the line was really good. It was like, are we, Cleavon Little asks him, are we awake? And then he says back to him, are we black? And he says, yeah. And then we're awake. But yeah, I just can't even begin to imagine what the film would have been like with different actors.
No.
Even if, Richard Pryor, who I really like, I don't think would have been as good.
No.
So yeah.
Yeah, but again, very good cast. Apart from Cleveland Little, Gene Wilder, you had Slim Pickens.
Yeah.
Apparently, he used to sleep with his rifle during the filming of this, just so he could get into the feeling of being a cowboy again. Also had John Hillerman from Magnum.
Oh yeah, I remember that. He was like the town's not mayor, but something like that.
Howard Johnson. There was Van Johnson.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, but going back to Slim Pickens, yeah, he was fantastic in this. Made for comedy, really.
Yeah, as the idiot cowboy that is just so unaware of what's going on.
Completely stupid.
I think it was him that was singing Camp Down Ladies, wasn't it? While the other guys were singing I Get No Kick from Champagne.
Doo-da, doo-da. Yeah. Madeline Kahn as Lily von Stupp was a huge highlight as well.
She sung a song in it. What was it?
I'm Tired.
That's it.
Yeah, basically a song about, I guess, a kind of like a show lady of sorts who was just tired of entertaining men and sleeping around. They're coming and going and going and coming and always too soon.
Yeah, so yeah, she was unbelievable in it.
But the funny thing to me that was maybe the funniest thing about her performance was when she starts the song and she does like some kind of vocal exercise or something.
Yeah,
it's like it's like so bad. And apparently she was doing a bit of not exactly impersonation, but it was inspired by another actress,
Marlene Dietrich, I think.
So yeah, so that was always amusing.
So very, very good film. It does stand up. There's no issue there at all.
Yeah, no question. I anytime any repeat viewing is still as funny as it was. Of course, a bit of a favorite character for other people was the one Mongo, Candygram for Mongo and all that.
Yeah, he was some ex-NFL player or something.
Yeah, Alex Karras.
Where he punched out the horse.
Yeah. That was always a good one.
Apparently, that's something that Sid Caesar did in real life.
Yeah, also Harvey Korman as Hedley Lamar. They kept calling him Hedy Lamar, and it's Hedley. Mel Brooks as Governor Lepidamine, and also as the Indian chief who speaks Yiddish, which was also hilarious.
That was your second. That was my third.
Yeah.
My second we've already spoken about was The Producers.
Yeah, that's high for me, but yeah.
That would mean that we've both got Young Frankenstein number one.
Not only that, also on IMDb, so it's like a consensus number one, this one.
Yeah, and the second highest return on investment as well. So it ticks all the boxes.
Yes, indeed. And an interesting one that Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein were released in the same year.
Yes. And apparently the story for Young Frankenstein was from Gene Wilder, and it was something that he told Mel Brooks about during the filming of Blazing Saddles. And Mel Brooks thought it was a great idea, and they put it into production pretty much straight after Blazing Saddles. So if that alcoholic actor that I can't remember his name, if he had been a bit more recovered, then Gene Wilder wouldn't have done Blazing Saddles, and we wouldn't have had Young Frankenstein.
Most likely, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's at all connected, but they were both released in 1974, which is the year I was born. So, a lot of good things came out of that year. Out of all of his appearances was my favorite Marty Feldman character.
Genius.
Yeah. And I think he was just kind of let loose in this one as Igor. Igor.
Yeah. Walk This Way. I'm pretty sure that was in this.
Yeah. And just he was a big favorite. And again, it's so difficult to pick a favorite character because it also has Cloris Leachman as Frau Blucher in this.
Oh, did I just hear a horse neighing in the background?
Yep. He was my boyfriend. But yeah, she's just awesome. But Frau Blucher is for me, her like the role,
Yeah.
But she's just a lot of fun, and she does kind of, don't even know how to put it, but she kind of puts herself into the characters. So in each character that we've talked about that she's done in these movies, she's done at least, I think, 3 or 4 of Mel Brooks's films.
Yeah.
Yeah, she always finds a way to stand out. And in this one, probably more than any other one.
Yeah. And speaking of standing out, what about Peter Boyle as the monster?
Yeah, Peter Boyle as the monster was, fantastic.
My favourite part in the film is when they're singing and dancing, and instead of putting on the Ritz, he's saying, "We're not Ritz."
Yeah, showing that he can tame the monster.
Yes.
Of course, into a tap dance and song routine.
Yeah.
Also has Terry Garr as Inga.
Yes, the love interest. Yep.
Yeah, that when they arrive at the castle and there's those knockers on the door and Gene Wilder goes, What knockers? Thank you, doctor. But yeah.
Yep. And Madeline Kahn again. She's just so good.
And also worth mentioning, this one had a cameo from Gene Hackman.
Yeah. Well,
He was the blind man.
he was. Yeah. That scene where he's giving the monster a drink and pouring the hot tea all over his hands.
Yeah, and he sets his thumb on fire as well instead of the candle.
Yeah, well, it's a cigar, was it?
Yeah, the cigar. You're right. Yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Fantastic film. I have no problem with this one being number one everywhere because it really is. Whenever I get asked about, I'm a lot sort of in the horror genre sort of world, and I get asked what my favorite horror comedy of all time is, and I just say hands down it's Young Frankenstein. I love Shaun of the Dead, but Shaun of the Dead is second. Yeah, it's just that good, Young Frankenstein. I love even the beginning, Gene Wilder's performance when he gets introduced and he's in a lecture, and just to show you his total sort of devotion and obsession to the source material and what he's trying to do as far as his experiments, when he stabs himself in the leg, saying the meaning of life. And then the funny thing was him sort of trying to hide the fact that he just stabbed himself and how painful it is was just hilarious. Yeah, of course he's Frankenstein, not Frankenstein.
Yes, and as we said, Igor instead of Igor. And I don't think you mentioned the brain from Abby Normal.
Abby someone. So many good lines in this one. Their castle, their werewolf. Why are you talking like that? Oh, I thought you wanted me to. That's okay. I'm easy. But I think Gene Wilder got to put his crazy on in this one, which he really relished. And my favorite character of his.
Yeah, and it's interesting. This is one of the few films, I guess, that Mel Brooks didn't appear in at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that was on purpose. Gene Wilder said, look, I want to do this film, but there's no way you can be in it because I don't want you breaking the fourth wall and I don't trust you not to do it. And Mel Brooks said, you're right. If I was in there, I'd find a way to do it.
Yeah, because I would have expected him to try to take on the role of Inspector Kemp, which was Kenneth Mars.
Yeah.
I would see, Mel Brooks trying to get his hands on that role. But yeah, Kenneth Mars was just fantastic. It was just so weird in this one. But yeah, in my mind, almost a perfect, parody, which is wacky, but not too wacky. It sort of sits somewhere as a just a comedy, but again, parodying the old Frankenstein films. It's nice that we all are in agreement on this one. So yeah, Young Frankenstein takes the cake.
Yeah, number one. And my number two was The Producers.
Yeah.
Number three, Blazing Saddles. Number four, History of the World Part 1. Number five, Robin Hood, Men in Tights. Number six, High Anxiety. Number seven, Spaceballs. Number 8, Silent Movies. Number 9, Dracula, Dead and Loving It. Number 10, Life Stinks. And number 11, The 12 Chairs.
And mine were number 11, Life Stinks. Number 10, The 12 Chairs. Number 9, Silent Movie. Number 8, Dracula. Number 7, High Anxiety. Number 6, Spaceballs. Number 5, The Producers. Number 4, Robin Hood Men in Tights. Number 3, History of the World Part 1. Number 2, Blazing Saddles. And number 1, of course, Young Frankenstein. So we had a few flip-floppers in there between us. And the one that we kind of mostly disagree on was The Producers, that you had at number 2, I had at number 5.
Yeah, so you were wrong. I was right with that. But otherwise...
Absolutely, I was right and you were wrong. Well, you also flip-flopped that by accident.
Yeah.
There's no way that The Producers is better than Blazing Saddles or History of the World. I could go for number 4 with Robin Hood Men in Tights, maybe, but no.
Well, we'll just agree to disagree on that one.
We'll disagree to disagree. I like that.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, well, thank you again for that, Itai.
Yep, until next time.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Best and Worst podcast.
We'd like to thank everyone who joined and listened to the show. We appreciate you all and hope you'll keep coming back for following episodes. A big thank you goes out to Tam Heinjus for helping us out tremendously and voicing our intro, and Scott Martin for working his magic on the intro sound edit. Also, a big thank you goes out to Asaf Angel for all the help with the logo design. Great work, everyone. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you.
If you like the show, then please recommend the podcast to your family and friends, and subscribe, share, follow, leave a comment. You know the drill. For more information, please check out the show notes. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week.